What up? And we back with day 8 testimony in the R. Kelly trial. So on today, we had a man and a woman both testified. They were both underage when they met R. Kelly. The woman, now 44, described being raped. The woman, identified only by her first name, Addie, testified that she told the singer she was 17 at the time of the encounter, which took place backstage after a concert. And a man who testified under a pseudonym in the afternoon said he was 17 when Mr. Kelly said he would help the boy's music career if he engaged in sex acts. The woman was the fourth to testify that she was underage during a sexual encounter with Mr. Kelly, accounts that have often included physical and sexual abuse. The first man to accuse Mr. Kelly of sexual abuse at his trial testified on Monday that he was a 17-year-old aspiring rapper when Mr. Kelly asked him what he was willing to do to advance his music career, and that the singer brought the teenager to his garage and crawled up to him to perform a sex act on him. Interesting. I never heard of R. Kelly being gay. Not that, well, I would say bisexual. Let me not say gay. Let me use the correct term for that. I've never heard of that, but that doesn't mean that's not true either. So what doesn't mean what this guy is testifying today isn't true. He just told me we had to keep it between me and him, the man who testified under the name Lewis. Adding that Mr. Kelly told him we're family now, we're brothers. That's even weirder that he would want to have sex with his brothers, but they should probably put his brothers on the stand, though, because you never know what happened. So, like I said, they told you they was molested, I believe, by a family member when they were children. So, you never know with R. Kelly, man. The two first met around 2006 when Lewis was a senior in high school and working at a McDonald's in the Chicago area. The singer gave him and another worker his phone number while in the drive-thru line, Lewis testified. Lewis said that his mother called Mr. Kelly hopeful that the entertainer could help further her son's music ambitions, and Mr. Kelly invited the family to a party at his mansion. While there, now again, here we are in 2006. We already know about Aaliyah. We already know about the sex tape with the young lady on it at this point. So again, we keep having a conversation of parents sending their children to this monster to prey on them. Because I have no doubt that he slept with the majority of these people. I keep getting you guys, or trying to stress the point to you guys, that parents knew who this man was at the point of sending their children to him. So what type of parent sends their child to a man like this? While there, the two took a photo and the singer whispered in his ear that he should come back to the other parties alone, Lewis told jurors. Afterward, Lewis twice traveled to Mr. Kelly's studio, known as the Chocolate Factory, to record music and receive feedback. He said their first sexual encounter came after the singer invited Lewis under a similar guise, he said, and then asked if he had any fantasies involving men once he arrived. As they continued to meet, Lewis said Mr. Kelly began to call him a little brother, told him to refer to him as daddy, and recorded their sexual encounters. That's interesting. Call him a little brother and told him to refer to him as daddy. That's very Very interesting. Weird, actually, that he would call you his little brother and tell you to call him daddy at the same time. All right. He said that he kept seeing Mr. Kelly because he really wanted to make it. And that's something we also keep hearing is a lot of women come and say, hey, I kept dealing with what I was dealing with because I wanted to make it. And again, I keep telling you, it's the casting couch. Because at a certain point, to me, if you're getting hurt or somebody's violating you, you just pull away. And I can even understand if you're saying I was in an abusive relationship and I couldn't leave. The majority of these people stayed because they still wanted to be famous. So they wanted to, being famous and being a singer meant more to them than being raped. That's basically what's being said again. And that they will be willing to be raped in order to be famous. That's also what they're saying. Which again, is hard for me to say that you were raped or believe you were raped because you have a mindset of I'm willing to do anything to get there. And with that, I would then have to ask you, were you forcefully or did you willingly do it? Because if you're willing to do anything to achieve your dreams, and I don't know I can call that rape at that point. So he then says he said that he kept seeing Mr. Kelly because he really wanted to make it, and that he took friends to some of the singers' parties. Lewis said Mr. Kelly asked him to keep bringing back one of his best friends. The friend was a 16-year-old boy who later received Mr. Kelly's phone number. Lewis said in court documents say that Mr. Kelly began having sexual encounters with him too while he was underage. On one occasion, the singer directed the two to touch each other sexually. Lewis testified, but they refused. Okay. So again, this is also where it gets confusing. They refused to touch each other, but you didn't refuse to have sex with R. Kelly. So refusing is an option, just not with him. Okay. At another point, Lewis told jurors he and Mr. Kelly met at his home in Olympia Fields, Illinois, in a garage set up as a workout area. Mr. Kelly snapped his fingers 2 times. Lewis testified, and a naked young lady crawled out from under a boxing ring that was in the room. That's a sick Negro, man. Because I can envision something like that going on. Mr. Kelly instructed her to perform a sex act on himself and then on Lewis, he said. It was just a weird situation, Lewis said. It was uncomfortable. And again, you have to keep asking yourself, why do you keep going and putting yourself in these situations? What is your self-worth like? Are you basically saying I'm willing to do anything to make it? Because if you are, then again, we can't get on the stand and cry rape at that point. Mr. Kelly, who has appeared impassive through most of the trial, seemed to become agitated by Lewis' testimony, wiping his head and clutching his mask while a man was on the stand Monday. As Lewis spoke, Mr. Kelly shook his head and folded his hands. The man said his interactions with Mr. Kelly continued for several years of this. Several years. Lewis recently pleaded guilty to attempted bribery for offering money to a potential witness against Mr. Kelly if she agreed to stop cooperating with the government. He said he did not want to testify on Monday, but entered an agreement to do so in exchange for the government notifying the judge on his case of his cooperation. And right then and there, his testimony to me is thrown completely out the window. Because now you don't know whether you can believe him or not. You don't know if he's saying these things now just to get his behind out of hot water, where it's one of those situations of, I'm going to cooperate with the feds and I'm just going to say whatever they need me to say, be it true or not. Because again, these are also situations, again, where you have to understand nobody really has any physical proof. It's just people being able to now tell a story, paint a narrative on both sides, his side and their side. And see, for me, in cases like this, it would be very hard for me to find somebody guilty off of these people's testimony. Now, if the feds are able to show a paper trail, which again, racketeering and using his fame to have sex with women, I use my clout or whatever of playing sports to have sex with women. I don't know if we want to say I was, running a ring, a sex ring or something at that point. Like, that's life. The supposed cool kids, the cool guys, the athletes, the entertainers, the singers, the rappers, they get to have sex with the ladies. That just is what it is. It's par for the course. So I don't even know where they're going with this when they continue to say uses its fame to have sex. But all right. Mr. Kelly's legal team honed in on the details of the agreement in his cross-examination. You have to be truthful according to what the government finds to be truthful, asked Devereaux Canick, one of Mr. Kelly's lawyers, suggesting Lewis' accounts had been fabricated or embellished, which we shall see. Another accuser says R. Kelly knew she was underage. A woman named Addie testified on Monday that when she was 17 years old, Mr. Kelly invited her backstage after a performance. She told him that she was underage, she said, and he assaulted her. It was September 94, and she and her best friend were at a concert in Miami where the R&B star Aaliyah had been scheduled to perform, and Mr. Kelly was the closing act, Addie said. Just 2 days earlier, other witnesses have testified the two artists were legally married. Aaliyah was 15 at the time and Kelly was 27. After Mr. Kelly's performance, two men who looked like bouncers approached Addie and her friend and told them that they could go backstage for an autograph, she said. The two were taken to a large dressing room, Addie told jurors. She said he gave her his autograph and she told him that she was an inspiring artist. Now, the only reason I'm going to give her a pass is in 94, nobody really knew about Aaliyah. And that tape didn't exist at that point. So in 94, she don't know anything. It is just R. Kelly at that point. So you don't know he's a creep. A lot of these other people, they were well aware of what he was and what he stood for at the point in time they got in business or got in bed with him. Mr. Kelly gave her his room number at a hotel and encouraged her to come audition, she said. But she told him that she was 17 and did not even know if she was allowed backstage. Mr. Kelly then cleared the room and told the pair he wanted to play a game to see who could kiss better. He kissed her friend, she said, and then began to kiss Addie as well, she testified. He started getting a little more aggressive, she said, and directed her to the back of the room. He held her wrists, unzipped her shorts, and had unprotected sexual intercourse with her, she said. At this point, I was in complete shock, she continued. I just went blank. And that's understandable. But again, it's why I say women need to come forward immediately. Because now we just have this is what happened to me 27 years ago. There's no way to prove this. So now it's going to be her word against his word. And at this point, with the way he's viewed among society, again, that's the worst thing you can put on a man's jacket is, well, second worst, child molester and then rapist. Because again, like I keep stressing, even if you found innocent of those charges, you're going to have women and people who look at you and just say, you only got off because of how powerful you are or because you're a man. So you're still viewed that way. And there's no way to get that off your jacket after that. Afterward, Addie and her friend ran out of there, she said. Her friend wanted her to contact the police and press charges, she said. But Addie feared that she would be blacklisted from the entertainment industry if she did. I didn't even know if they would believe me, she said. I didn't want to be victim shamed. And again, here we go again. Didn't want to be blacklisted from the entertainment industry. So again, I'll allow someone to get away with this as long as I can be successful. I'm willing to be raped. This cannot continue to be the mindset going forward in society. There has to be a standard at some point. It's either cool or it's not cool. It's either I'm willing to do anything to make it or I'm not. But we can't keep having this line that gets blurred to say, I was willing to do anything to make it. So even though I was dealing with a lot of this, I wasn't going to complain because I wanted to make it. But since I didn't make it, now I'm going to go back and look at this and say, you know what? Yeah, I was raped. That's not good for anybody. And it's definitely not good for the women who actually are being raped. Because now it makes everybody look at everyone as a liar, or she could be finessing the system. Because what it should be, in the way that these things really should work, is when a woman accuses a man of rape, you should be able to believe that woman with those accusations. The problem is, because of the women who've cried wolf so many times, we look at women and it's just like, yeah, I'm gonna need proof. I just can't, because it becomes a my word against he said, she said thing. So now it's, well, you're going to have to prove that. So if somebody waited 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, this woman 27 years, you ain't no physical evidence to prove it. So how do we now believe you? Because we haven't heard from you up until this trial. So what is it now that we should believe about your testimony? Could it have actually happened? It sure could. But when you wait 27 years and wait for a trial, what are we to take from that? Because to me, if it is what it is, and this wasn't about any clout or anything else, then you just keep living your life. It happened 27 years ago. I've been living with it. I'll keep living with it and just keep it moving. But to come out 27 years later for a trial, now it looks like there's an agenda to be had. Because even if you would have came out with this 10 years ago, when there was nothing going on, and say, yo, I was raped by R. Kelly, at that point, somebody still could look and say, all right, ain't nothing going on right now. She could be telling the truth. But to wait till now, everything looks fishy at this point. During cross-examination, Kelly's lawyer, Mr. Canick, questioned Addie about the delay between the attack and her report to the police, which was filed in 2019. Again, the Me Too movement. And that's why I was telling you, in 2017, they were starting to set all of these ducks in a row. And I think in 2019, when they released the Surviving R. Kelly, I think it was 2019, 2018, something like that, anything to me that comes right along in that area, I'm gonna look at it as shady. Because I don't know if the Me Too movement has financially paid any of these people off at this point. So I don't know what's going on. I didn't want more victim shaming and more trauma at that time, said Addie, who is now 44. More victim shaming and more trauma at the time. So you wait 25 years and then come out and say something. I'm an adult now, she said. I'm no longer a little girl. And again, like I said, she could be telling the truth, but when you wait 25 years, you wait till 2019 and this happened in 94. To me, it just, you can just live your life out at that point. Like, it's, to me, I don't even see the reason they even mentioning it at that point. If the statute of limitations have passed, which again, he hasn't been charged with rape, then we're saying it now to say what? Because we can't prove it. So all it is would be to sully someone's name. R. Kelly brought women to his basketball games who seemed isolated and behaved strangely, a former associate said. A man who worked with Mr. Kelly testified that the two played basketball together in Atlanta, but that the behavior of the women who the R&B singer brought to their games seemed strange. They would actually sit in a corner away from everybody, the man, Derek Stevens, said, describing them as isolated from the larger group. And I can respect Derek Stevens, because at least, again, it's somebody who's willing to put their name out there. If you're going to accuse somebody and violate the accused's privacy and have all his business out there, you should be forced to put your business out there. Because the one thing I will say with a lot of the people who are taking the stand now, if their business was put out there and their names was put out there, people would then go to track social media and go track former friends, former boyfriends. And I don't think a lot of people want their personal business out there, because there could be some inconsistencies with these stories. One of the players needed to approach them to retrieve a ball. The women would cross their legs and look at the ceiling or the wall, said Mr. Stevens, who helped with Mr. Kelly's business deals and coordinated his collaborations with other artists for a short time, starting in 2013. His testimony served to bolster the account of another woman who testified last week that she and others went to Mr. Kelly's basketball games on several occasions, but were barred from engaging with other male players per one of the singer's strict rules. Now, I can say when Hoops the Gym used to be open here, we have played basketball with R. Kelly a couple of times, and there were ladies there with him, and I never noticed any of this behavior. But that doesn't mean that didn't happen in 2013. When we was playing at Hoops the Gym, you talking early 2000s. So could he have graduated to turn into this monster? He sure could have. He could have progressively turned into the sexual deviant that he is today. So, but I can say personally, playing basketball with him, I never noticed that. So, and he was actually a cool cat who kind of just talked and laughed with everybody while he was in there. And once the games was over, he would kind of grab his stuff, grab his crew, and they would leave. But they finished by saying we would just have to watch the defendant play and only him, the woman who testified under a pseudonym, told jurors last week. If we ended up looking at another man, we would get a chastising for it, she said. Referencing the spankings and physical abuse, she said Mr. Kelly would dole out when his rules were broken. So that was the end of testimony on day number 8. What we have learned is R. Kelly maybe is allegedly bisexual now. Did not allow women at basketball games to look at other people, to keep the eyes focused on him. And we have a 44-year-old woman who says she was raped by R. Kelly back in 1994, but waited 25 years to 2019 to report it. We also have his alleged bisexual lover says that he has a plea bargain deal already set up with the Fed. So take away from the testimony whatever you may. We'll be back for day number 9 tomorrow. It's your boy, the Hood Nerd. I'm out.